Welcome to the Atom Ventures podcast. My name is Biophilic Patel. I'm the co-founder and managing director of Atom Ventures, and today I'm here with Akil Gordon-Beckford from ViDERE Aquariums.
Hi, how you doing?
Doing very well, doing well. So today we're going to talk about biophilia, because the reason that we're chatting is because I saw a presentation of yours at the Next Level Networking, wasn't it? It was the Next Level Networking, and so it was a fascinating presentation. And so I just want to go a little bit into what you were talking about there. Around biophilia and how, our surroundings affect how we work and our stress levels, etc. So first off, let's talk a little bit about your background, because you were a science teacher and now you're selling aquariums essentially. So how did that happen?
So my background in terms of professionally, I started out initially as a science teacher, but my love affair with aquariums and aquarium design started when I was about 8 years old. So I've had aquariums since I was really a young lad, and the aquariums kind of really started out as a really small cube, and they just got bigger and bigger older. And then when I finished school and went to college, decided that the direction I wanted to go down was to study nature. So I just did a degree in biology and ecology at university. Graduated from there, and whilst I was at university, I kind of sort of started the precursor to this business. So I would set up I don't know if you remember Yellow Pages or Your.com.
Yeah.
So I set up like a little advert in there, and I was advertising sort of aquarium design and pond service and installations as a service. And then I would put like a few business cards. It was AMG Ponds and Aquariums when it first started out. And I would put like a few business cards in local aquatic shops in sort of the Birmingham area where I'm from, and just kind of started building up sort of like a customer base through that way. And then I graduated from university, and it was sort of like in that catch-22 in business where you kind of have enough to sort of keep you going as like a side hustle, but isn't necessarily enough to make it like a full-time living out of it, and obviously look after your kids and your family and your wife, etc. So I decided to go into teaching. Kind of fell into it really, and I was teaching for about maybe 7-8 years, and then whilst in the background, kind of just sort of bubbling away with this business, sort of working out what's the best way to run an aquarium design business. And eventually, I had a few sort of big breaks with some interesting clients, gotten some big projects, and then the business sort of just took off from there.
Cool. So let's talk about, biophilia is a topic that you talked about during that presentation, and I know it's something that you're very interested in. So what is biophilia? Can you give a little bit of an explanation around it?
So biophilia is an approach where it seeks to find a way to connect people to nature. So that either can be through design, so the way you design a space, so you would incorporate nature into the space in a various number of ways. That could be in terms of how you interact the senses of an individual, whether that's the visual, auditory, which is sound, or olfactory, which is smell. Another way you can engage people in nature is just by sort of encouraging them to physically interact with nature as part of their sort of like their weekly or daily schedule. And those kind of things will happen through sort of activities like meditation. It's a really sort of biophilic activity that you can do to sort of sink your mind and your body back into its natural state. But in terms of like what I'm fascinated with and sort of where I've focused a lot of the attention within my business is around sort of biophilic design with biophilia or biophilic design within the physical space or the environment. How do we incorporate nature into the environments that people spend their time either at work or at home?
So you're obviously concentrating on aquariums, and you're talking about kind of wider, from what you're saying, there's like it's all of nature really that can help you. So a couple of questions there. One is, what are the benefits of all of this? And secondly, why fish? What is it about fish that helps us de-stress?
So the major benefits around biophilic design is that it reduces people's levels of anxiety and stress. And the reason for that is, if you look at how human beings used to exist in a sort of prehistoric Neolithic age, our ancestors were immersed in nature. They didn't grow up. They didn't sort of like grow up in be surrounded by buildings and in all the technology that we were exposed to today. The typical environment that our ancestors would have grown up would have been like a grasslands where you'd have been able to sort of see vegetation, landscapes with like open bodies of water, rockeries, hills and mountains in the background, and you'd have. I'm sort of painting a picture of scene out of the Lion King at the moment.
Yeah.
And you've got food running around. You know, it's like, I mean, as idyllic as it probably sounds, it's probably a difficult way of eking out a living. But in terms of how our brains have evolved, the human mind and the human brain has a natural inkling to be drawn towards nature, and the reason for that is those sensory cues, i.e., something like through you, whether you hear the sound of maybe of a natural space, or the sight of a natural space, or the smell of a natural space, tells your sort of your prehistoric part of your brain that there's resources available there for you to have a better quality of life, or even just increase your chances of survival. So the way the brain is kind of pre-wired, it releases this hormone or this chemical called dopamine, and what that does is it kind of like positively reinforces your mind and your brain chemistry to actively seek out these types of stimulus or these types of environments. So how that sort of like feeds back to sort of here in modern day life, our brain, although our bodies and our minds, although our socially we have changed quite significantly over maybe the last few thousand years. In terms of our physiology, we're pretty much the same as we were 7,000-10,000 years ago. And if you compare the amount of information that the average person has to sort of like process in a day, and you compare that to the amount of information that a hunter-gatherer processes, you can imagine that the brain is in a constant state of overwhelm and overload. So what biophilic design does, it really sort of helps take the brain back to its natural state.
It's a calming type influence, right? So essentially what you're looking at, it's, I guess in most people's houses, right? There'll be a bit of a smell, but it's mostly the sight. It's your visual senses, right? That will help you calm down.
Yeah, because if you think of how we're sort of built, I think it's like 85% of our brain activity is focused on what we see right in front of us, and we are very visually dominant animals. So you know we make assessments of our environments and our surroundings based on what we see first and foremost. We kind of use the other senses as ways of sort of like reinforcing or backing up what we're actually seeing in front of us. So say for example, you can smell like a roast beef being cooked on, and then someone puts chicken in front of you. Your brain's gonna physically say, well, that's a chicken, even though you can smell beef, you know visually that's a chicken, and your mind will be made up that you're about to eat a piece of chicken. Yeah. So I think, so in terms of how biophilic design works, is it really focuses on what the most dominant sense, sort of part of our sense system, which is our visual, which is the visual, which is our eyes, and seeks to use that as a way to sort of reduce our anxieties and put us in a much more tranquil and calm state.
So I've seen some of the installations. So just tell the listeners your website. Videoaquariumscom. And so if you go to the website, you can see some of the installations that Akil and his team have done. And they are amazing, what you have there. And I can definitely see that. So let's paint a little bit of a picture for people who obviously, people, I guess, imagining aquariums or imagining fish, they're thinking like the old goldfish in a bowl, right? Or they're maybe thinking of the aquarium, little kind of small tank that you've got on the side with it's bubbling away with a couple of fish in it. So set a scene for them. Like what is it that you're creating when you're developing this biophilic experience?
So yeah, we design aquariums that are really like integrated within the space. And there's a real sort of a emphasis in the direction that we do in terms of creating actual visual art within the fish tanks. And that involves actually recreating landscapes. So we'll sort of take inspiration from nature itself and recreate that within the 4 glass walls of a tank. We do, I mean, in terms of the range of work that we do, it ranges from 4 small 30 centimeter cubes, which we maybe just go on a desktop or in like a sort of a wall cabinet, to 4 meter long coral reef systems with like 4,000 liters of water, and there's like maybe 200 fish swimming around in the tank. So, you know, we do some interesting projects. We've worked with some interesting clients. We've built aquariums in music studios where we've created a soundproof vacuum panel on the front to sort of stop the sound from the music studio getting into the tank. We've built shark tanks in kitchens. We've done quite a right range of interesting projects, and we do also, one of the things that are really sort of important to me and this brand is about making aquariums really accessible to people who may not necessarily have interacted with a tank. So we do quite a few public exhibitions and events where we actually do like put on actual life real life galleries of fish tanks for people to actually come and see some of the work that we do in real life. So, you know, we do quite a wide variety of things. And then we also, one of the other things that we specialize in is we obviously work a lot with businesses and offices to create this biophilic design feature as something as part of their strategy within helping managing the anxiety and stress levels of people at work.
So one of the things I find quite interesting is the design aspect of it all, right? Because, and again, it's a little bit back to your background of being a scientist, right? Because I don't expect scientists to be designers as well, right? But I've seen some of the installations that you've had, and they look fantastic. So I guess the question is, how much time do you spend on design, and how do you know what design to build for people? Does it really matter how it looks? As in, you know, I mean, okay, this is going to be a bit of a stupid question, but how much does it matter? The intricacy of the tank, how much does that really matter, or is it just the fact that there are fish and water in front of you that is what helps you, or can you make adjustments to improve people's mental well-being? I guess.
I think it matters. What's inside the tank matters a great deal. So you could you could have a situation where someone sets up a fish tank using the exact same dimensions, and you put in a hippo connected to an air pump, and you've got the bubbles coming out of the hippo's mouth. You got that sort of like stereotypical sort of goldfish design with the castle swimming, with the castle and the sort of the big archway with the fish sort of swim through. And you think to yourself, would you position that and place that as like an interior design feature within your home? Probably not.
No, not if you're a 5-year-old. No.
Exactly it. And what we do is, we create these almost like these underwater art pieces that look like another world. And one of the importance of aquascaping, which is what we do in terms of how we lay out the interior of the tank. It really, if the more intricate it is, and the more sort of points of interest that you can create within the tank, the more it engages someone, and the more it engages someone, the longer they spend looking at the tank and spending time with it. And the longer the more time that they spend with the tank, or the aquarium, the more they can receive the benefits of that visual connection with nature.
So in a way, what you're doing is essentially just a huge distraction for a person, right? So as soon as they look up from the screen, they're seeing something, and then it's helping them take their mind off what they're doing at the moment, right? Trying to reduce the levels of noise, I guess, is what you're saying.
Yeah, so it's funny you mentioned that. So we did a study last year, this is 2019, and we actually put a fish tank in a web design agency. And what we did was we got members of their team to sit in front of the tank for 10 minutes, and we measured their blood pressure and their heart rate sort of before and after. Now, as you can imagine, working for a web development agency, it's high pressure, constant deadlines, You obviously, and then you I don't know if you experience this. You ever sort of, when you spend the whole day in front of a screen, do you sort of get like a headachy feeling at the end of the day?
Yeah.
This was like normal. This was like normal for them. So like by about say 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they start getting that what we call computer blur, where your brain just can't handle the amount of information. It's almost like information overload or information overwhelm. So what we did with the aquarium was we positioned it and kind of used it as not just like an interior design, but as a therapy tool to actually help them feel much better throughout their day. So so as well as the sort of short case study, we had the tank in there for a while, and we was getting them to sort of spend some time looking at the tank throughout the day. So instead of like maybe going 10 minutes and having a sort of a quick browse on Facebook or Instagram, actually got them to use that time to just sort of look into the tank and just switch their brain off everything else that was going on. And I think the term distraction is quite misleading, because I think distraction sort of tells you that you sort of suggests that you're taking your brain from one thing and you're focusing it on something else. And what the aquarium actually did was it took their brain from focusing on whatever tasks or jobs that they had to do or what was on the screen to actually not focus on anything specific. Because what the fish tank does, the movements of the fish, what they do is they move to nature's rhythm, because they're just life, they're just animals. And what the effect that I found with fish was that when you look into the aquarium and you look at the fish, they actually sink you back into nature's rhythm, and that's where you feel that calming feeling, that feeling of de-stress, and where the anxiety literally just sort of falls off you. And then the feedback we was getting, the short-term feedback was, well, the people when they do the therapy session for the 10 minutes sitting in front of the aquarium, they'd feel much more calm and much more relaxed. You know, one of them even said they felt like going for a nap. And in terms of the long-term feedback we was getting was that there was some of the staff members weren't getting that 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock brain headache. They wasn't getting that brain overload feeling that you get at the end of the day. So whilst it was a small sample, I mean, we worked with like 13 people, so it wasn't like we could sort of say could draw any statistics from it. But I think there was some real anecdotal sort of data there that kind of gave us, sort of reaffirmed what our theory was around benefits of biophilia and biophilic design, and how specifically aquariums and fish tanks fit in with that whole conversation of how do we connect people to nature using that particular type of feature and item.
That's interesting, because you also, so what you're saying, that they sat there for 10 minutes, but also that tank was there for a while, right? So they were just walking around seeing it. And so it wasn't just the fact that you sat there looking at it for 10 minutes, it was the fact that it was just there, was helping people. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, so question for you then. So how do people, I mean, this all sounds very expensive. So is it expensive, and could someone do this in their own home?
So, yes and no. So I think if you compare the work that we do to what you'd say, what you'd maybe purchase at an aquatic shop, then you'd probably find it be actually quite expensive. We do, and the reason why is it's the same way that if you used to buy a print from IKEA, or actually go to an artist and get him to paint you a drawing.
Sure.
You're gonna get a gulf of difference in terms of the workmanship that goes into the product, as well as the materials drawn to sort of create it. With that said, you can, with us, like an entry level aquarium or fish tank with us would start around £500, and that would get you like a fully set up sort of 30 centimeter cube, and that would have all the filtration, the aquascape design, and the fish all included. And then on the top end, you can buy a small house or something for the amount of money that you can spend.
That's affordable though, right? Because if you think about it, I mean, a lot of people in lockdown have been spending money on like ergonomic chairs or better tables or PCs. I mean, you know, you can buy the top end chairs are like $2.5 grand, right? And most people are probably spending a couple $100, £300 on if they are buying a good chair, they're spending that kind of money. So then £400-500 doesn't sound so bad, given that most people are stuck in front of their screens now. And if you've got something that can help you not, to clear your mind, but also make sure you don't overstrain yourself, that sounds like a good investment, really.
Yeah, I believe so. And one of the things that we're working on at the moment is we are. I've been me and the team have been shooting a series of how-to videos, and these tutorials will take you from the start point where you've got an empty glass box to a fully scaped aquarium or a little small fish tank that you can look after yourself. And then we will give you, and we've also included within that sort of like the sort of aftercare guide of how to look after the tank sort of on an ongoing basis. We're probably about 75% in filming that. So we kind of like at the final sort of editing stages now. We're just sort of like putting all the footage together and packaging it so that it's easily digestible, like 3 to 5 minute videos. And we're really excited about that, because I think one of the things that I found with regards to just post lockdown was that it's not necessarily feasible for someone to come into your house and set things up. But if you can give people the tools to go about maybe doing that themselves, I think one, it empowers them to have a go, and two, I think it enables a person to actually really connect with the piece that's in front of them, because they've got some ownership over the design and the sort of the creation of the fish tank and everything that's in it. So I think we definitely want to go down that direction. And I think it's really important that whether you have a plant, whether you have fish, a dog, it's really important that you have some sort of natural life outside of people that you can sort of take care of. And what that does is that in that process of looking after something outside of yourself, it creates this feeling of bonding, and that comes from a hormone called oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone. It's the empathy hormone, and like you'll find that like women when they first give birth, their body is absolutely flooded with it, and it's the whole reason is nature's trying to encourage the mother to bond with the child and bond with the father, and create that sort of family unit. And men as well, again, experience that same feeling of oxytocin when they're around a child and around a baby. But we also experience that same feeling when we're around when we're around nature as well. And I suppose one of the things that the studies within Biophilic design, what they've found is that people are more collaborative and more connected when in these biophilic design spaces, or these spaces that are rich in biophilia and natural art. So I'm a real proponent for just sort of like not just the visual aspects of what biophilic design can do, but also the psychological and cognitive benefits of it as well.
Yeah. So would you be selling starter kits for people?
Yeah. So what you'll do is you can go onto our website. You can purchase the tank, the aquascaping materials, or the equipment, and then you can sort of log onto the site and then just go through the step-by-step process of building out your own aquarium, following our step-by-step guide.
So one of the things I noticed on your website is that there's obviously the range of fish, saltwater, freshwater, and the range of kind of, I guess, vegetation that's in the tank. I mean, how do you choose between all of that then, in order to get the right experience for you?
So, I mean, on what we do is we've almost sort of created like a recipe book, like a cookbook, and you can sort of like look at the design and we'll like that particular type of scape or design, and then it will break down the steps of how and all the ingredients that create that particular design. But in terms of from a design perspective, what we do with our clients, we base the interior of the tank based on a few things. The first thing is the budget. That's normally, but usually when you're working in design, that's usually the most important thing that you've got to work towards. And then also as well, like for example, we will try and tailor the tank to match maybe someone's experiences that they've had. Sometimes, like we've worked with clients where we've picked fish from like a really memorable place where they've been snorkeling or scuba diving, and we sort of like recreated the landscape of inside the tank, and then picked some certain species that they would have seen when they were diving on that trip. or we can also sort of really go really artistic and actually just come up with like a real concept based on some aspects of their personality, who they are. And then from when we're designing aquariums for commercial or spaces or businesses, then we can also use aspects of their brand as a way and emulate their brand in terms of what they represent, and use that as a kind of like an anchor to make decisions around what we put into the aquarium and how we lay it out and what goes in it.
I saw you were doing something with the NHS in Birmingham. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so what we did, I think it was around August. We had, well, let me sort of rewind a bit further back. So, to the start of March, we did our last large event, which was the Life Gallery, and we had about 16 aquariums sort of live on display for the public to come in and have a look and sort of interact. And obviously, we was doing a lot of networking with local architects and designers in the Birmingham area, and it was a real success. We had there was a lot of interest from media, as well as people, actually local businesses and potential clients coming in. And then a week later, lockdown happened. So they kind of just sort of like put an absolute. I mean, look, every other business in the area, in the UK, probably in the world, was experiencing the same thing. It wasn't sort of just unique to ViDERE, but when you're in it, it sort of feels like it's all happening to you at the time.
Yeah,
true. So following, because normally when we do these events, we run it right to the end, and then some of the people that come actually sort of like purchase some of the tanks that were on display. Obviously, that didn't happen because of the situation everyone was experiencing. So we had a few tanks sort of like sitting around gathering dust, and I thought, well, rather than put them into storage and shut them down and then sort of like almost lose that art, I thought, why not donate them to the NHS? So I reached out to the local NHS trust fund, like a charity that sort of runs sort of like some of the benefits for patients, or benefits and support for patients, as well as some of the staff. And they told me that there was during that whole COVID period, they set up these kind of wellbeing centres to sort of support the staff who were obviously working round the clock, trying to sort of keep on top of the increased capacity from patients walking in. So it was around August, we agreed to donate 4 of these small 30 centimetre tank cubes that we offer to our office clients, to basically donate them to the local NHS trust fund. And then their plan is they're going to build them into their wellbeing hubs that they're thinking about making a permanent feature moving forward. So yeah, we're really excited about that. I mean, and as much as it was great to sort of like raise the awareness around what we're doing, it was really just to say thank you to the NHS for the hard work that they'd put in, and we wanted to sort of find a way. So how can we give back? And obviously the best way we can give back is by bringing nature to those healthcare workers. So it was really that project. So yeah, we look forward to actually when those hubs get built, to put those tanks in there and sort of see that whole project kind of finish.
Yes, excellent. So how do people get in touch with you? How do they, so if they're going to engage with you, they want to get in touch and learn a bit more, and maybe they're interested in actually installing a tank?
Yeah, so follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Just type in @ViDERE Aquariums. That's VIDERE Aquariums, and then you can engage with me as well. You can find my handle, which is AkilGB, AKILGB, on Twitter and Instagram, and then you can also connect with me on LinkedIn as well. I'm very active on LinkedIn, talking about the well-being benefits of aquariums, fish, and nature. So
that you are. All right. So the last question I have for everyone is, if you could go back in time 20 years and give advice to your younger self, what would that advice be?
Surround yourself with positive people and don't try and do it all yourself. So prior to me sort of being self-employed full-time, I tried to be a teacher, be an aquarium designer, be a dad, be a husband, be a friend, be a son. And I realized that I couldn't run this business properly by doing all on my own. So I couldn't trying to put on, obviously as a founder, you do have to put on different hats, and you have to be sort of diverse in sort of the different skill sets you need in terms of be able to understand how your business operates and functions. But I think things only started going in the right direction the moment I started sort of letting go of certain parts of my company and my business, and actually just sort of like bringing in the right people to sort of help basically build a brand. I think that whole process of bringing the right people in really was facilitated by the fact that I'm really deep on philosophy, and it wasn't, this whole business around what I do is not just about just sort of making the most amount of money for the least amount of effort and putting all the fish tanks in the most flashy places. It's really about how spreading a message about biophilic design and how aquariums can really sort of improve how people think and feel at work and at home. And I think that philosophy, that grounded philosophy, really helped attract the right people to the business, and then ultimately that's helped the business grow to where we are right now. Relatively speaking, we're still a micro business, and there's 4 people working within the company at the moment. But recent projects that we've taken on, I think we're going to be growing pretty quickly within the next 12 months. So it's exciting times.
That's exciting. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's great news. And delegation is probably the hardest thing to do when you're starting a business, right? Giving up a piece of the pie is always hard.
Yeah. It's that letting go. I mean, because you want to. I think my thing is I always wanted everything to be perfect, and I've developed like an amazing, like a wealth of amount of different like skills, from like writing my own website on Wix, right through to managing like your bank accounts, doing your tax. And when I say doing your tax, like obviously you have your accountant who does your filing, but sort of you manage his day-to-day bookkeeping. And what you'll find is that whilst you're trying to do all these things well, the thing that you're really good at is not receiving the most amount of attention. And I think right now, I've been able to double down on what I'm really good at, which is design and just connecting with people. And with that, that's enabled me to grow the business to what where we are right now. So if anyone's starting out, I'd say definitely create as much content around what you believe in, connect with the right people, and just from a get-go, just try your best not to do everything yourself. Because business is a sport, isn't it? I think you can make yourself very busy and not very, very stressed trying to do everything yourself.
It's funny because no one ever tells you when you start a business all the kind of the trial by fire you need to go through, right? When you're starting that, because all the things that you mentioned, like start opening a bank account, creating your Wix website. These are all everyone does that. It's like, but no one talks about them doing it because everyone's like talking about the things that happen a year into the business or 2 years into the business, right? And that's a great thing. All right, well, thanks a lot for that. It's been really, really interesting conversation, and I hope that anyone who's listening heeds Akil's advice and starts thinking about how they can change their inner work experience. And it's something I actually would need to do myself, to be honest with you, because I've got too many screens and too much noise going on at any one point in time, and I definitely need a place to relax for sure.
How many screens have you got in front of you right now?
At the moment, only 2. It used to be 4, but that was I pared it down. Less space now, but yeah, it's all good.
You need to put a fish tank. You need to put a fish tank next to one of your screens, mate.
I do. All right, cheers for that. It's been great to speak to you.
Okay. All right, bye.